Hi, I'm Robert Oakes, author of the new book, Ghosts of the Berkshires. For the last decade, I have been ghost tour guide at the Mount in Lenox, Massachusetts, telling tales of eerie encounters that many have claimed to experience there. Writing Ghosts of the Berkshires gave me the chance to step off the grounds of the Mount and explore the lore of this entire region. Along the way, one of my guides was local author Willard Douglas Coxey, whose Ghosts of Old Berkshire, published in 1934, was the source of several of the stories featured in my book. One such story, The Ghost of Green River, tells of the spirit of a Hessian soldier that haunted the town of Egremont during the Revolutionary War. According to the tale, many residents spotted the phantom floating along the Green River and among the tombstones in the town cemetery, prompting local townsmen to gather one night in the village store before setting out in search of the Hessian's ghost. These men were determined to debunk the sightings, but when they saw the ghost rise up from his grave and drift to the nearby river, each man became a true believer. One of the great benefits of writing about stories set so close to home is the ability to go and conduct your own investigation. Egremont is just a quick drive away, so let's go there now and see what we can find. The story of the Undead Hessian of Egremont was one of the first ones that I began to work on for the book. And early on in the research process, I thought it might be fun if I could try to figure out where in Egremont this might have taken place, or at least what part of town might have inspired the tale. And so I went looking for a cemetery that fit the description as given by Coxey in his story, one that would have been near enough to the Green River, one that might have had a village store nearby where the old men might have gathered to drink their hard cider, to work up the courage before heading out that night to look for the spirit of the Hessian. And I looked around town and I didn't really find one that fit the description until I stood outside the old Egremont country store. And I looked across the road, and there through the trees, sure enough, I caught the sight of some old tombstones. And then looking on a map, I realized that that cemetery, Riverside Cemetery, sits right beside the Green River. And I thought, this is the perfect location. I mean, this would have been the place, could have been the place, where these old men would have gathered and then ventured out to try to confront the spirit of the undead Hessian. Riverside Cemetery, here on Route 71 in Egremont, is the site of some of the oldest tombstones in town, some dating back to the 1700s. It's also the location of the grave of Willard Douglas Coxey, author of Ghosts of Old Berkshire, who lived and died right here in Egremont. Let's go in and have a look. Okay, we're now here at the gravesite of Willard Douglas Coxey, who was born in 1861, died in 1943, and so far as I know, lived much of his life right here in Egremont. It's really special for me to be here at Coxey's grave. He really was such a big inspiration and influence for my book, kept alive so many of these old stories through his own writings. And it's kind of cool to imagine that Coxey may now be buried in the very cemetery where he set his story, Ghosts of Green River. It's not clear whether this is the same cemetery, although it does fit the description. We are very near to the edge of the Green River, which is just beyond that tree line over there. And he did imagine in his tale that the spirit of the undead Hessian rose up from the grave and drifted off toward the tree line and over toward the river there. I love this image of an apparition floating over the river, like some elemental spirit of the water. On a misty moonlit night, it must be easy to see, or think you see, such a spirit floating there. What's unclear about Coxey's book is how much of it was his own invention and how much came from stories passed along through an oral tradition. Did any of these tales come from real people who experienced actual encounters with mysterious entities, or was it all pure fiction? It's hard to say. Ghost stories, after all, often involve what one Berkshire Eagle reporter called in 1934 a strange mingling of fact and fancy. Can we always know where fancy ends and fact begins? Maybe not. Maybe like those townsmen in Egremont, the best way to find out is to explore an old cemetery on a blustery night in search of a Berkshire ghost.